The button has been pushed.
The button has been pushed. Can you tell?
Yeah, it flashed on my screen.
Okay. Well, how you doing, handsome?
I'm doing good. I am rolling right along. I think I'll get my eighth state tomorrow. So I'm back and at it.
I'm a little concerned about New Mexico, by the way. I've been watching, and
it's a
there's a
it's
big gap.
yeah, I passed through it. That was all today. I was driving through New Mexico all today. So it's gonna
Okay.
get bypassed until it's actually summer because there's just too much stuff. There's too much stuff in the north that I the general idea of this is to do two videos per state. Sometimes there'll be less, sometimes there'll be more, but I can't just do like I've gotten some good invites from southern New Mexico that isn't under snow, but there's like three or four amazing things to ride, three or four great videos to make just in the north of New Mexico that I've been hearing about for years and I've never done. So it's definitely starting to fill in all around.
Oh, well, let me do my little intro first, because
Oh yeah.
I have lots of questions. Welcome to the Shut Up and Ride podcast, where that's right, all of us are going to interview Brian Kennedy from BKXC. You know who this is. Um, we mostly interview mountain bikers, free riders, generally cool people, and so Brian obviously has all of those. And a couple things here. If you look in the description, I have Brian's Patreon, his YouTube, his Instagram, his Facebook. Really go to that. Take a hard look at that. One of the things about Patreon that I've seen is some people have it, and Brian really, I would say he's OG on this, and he's really thoughtful about this. So, for instance, if you're on a stationary bike, you can watch his stuff without sound, with sound, and I can tell you that the shitty 5 minute videos that I do that take a long time to process, I can't even imagine how long a 45-minute video takes. You're killing computers. So let's get back into this. I'm going to start right away with you are actually going to visit the entire lower 48. I know you've been to Hawaii already. How long have you been thinking about that?
Huh. You know, I don't know how long I've been thinking about it, but when I lost my uncle Dennis, he was just a big adventurer guy. He was a big travel guy, and I always I was very hesitant about ever getting a van because I worried about the cost. I worried about where I was going to park it. Da, da, da. I had all these like hiccups about why I wouldn't get one. And then when he's gone, it's like, man, life is fragile. Anything can happen at any time. I'm getting a friggin' van. And then what better thing to like use and abuse the van and just destroy it by traveling to all 50 states. It gives a goal for the channel. It gives a whole idea for the channel for the whole year for 2020 to be like a big event.
Here's a question. How badass is your dad?
He's pretty badass. He is like so much. My parents are such a big part of my life, and they've helped me out so much in a million different ways, and it's so cool that we have this great relationship that me and my dad can hang out, we can work on stuff, we can break stuff, we can cuss at each other a little bit when we get mad, and it just I treasure it so much because like anything can happen at any time. And my dad didn't have his dad when he was growing up. So it's a very cool thing to do that. And when I read the comments, the people, van video brings in people off the street and really crappy comments. And so many comments like, oh, you just let your dad do the whole thing. And it's like, I'm sorry you didn't have a good relationship with your parents.
My bad. All right. Let me get to some of these questions. What kind of mountain bikes do you have? Not just on you, not just in the van, but what kind you own right now?
I only own one. It's in the van right now. I have the Ibis Ritmo, and that is it. I recently just donated the Orbea Rayon and the Santa Cruz Bronson to my local Benicia mountain bike club, Benicia High School Mountain Bike Club. I donated those bikes so they can sell them or use them to race because a lot of the kids, it's tough to get kids into the program because if they don't have a bike, they don't ride. So hopefully they can put those bikes to use.
And the orange one is the Orbea is the orange one, right?
Yeah,
From
correct.
OG, long time ago.
Yeah.
Have you ever regretted selling a mountain bike?
No, I've never sold a. Wait, no, I did sell one mountain bike. The other one got stolen. So I really wish. I regret that my Yeti SB66 was stolen
And never
by
to be
me
seen
leaving
again?
the garage door. Nah, never to be seen again. And it was because I left my garage door open. So that was kind of a bummer.
Let me ask you this, and some of these questions, hopefully they won't get you in trouble. Is
Mhm.
26-inch wheels, are they dead?
That's a that's a good question. It's like, are the 1950s Chevys that they drive in Cuba dead? Like, technically, I guess not, but they still exist. They still go, and people still like them. But I think everything still has a little heartbeat. But nothing's truly dead in this world. I can't even think of an example of some old technology or something. Somebody's always got something still going.
True, true. Let me, I always ask this one too. Are you a gearhead?
No, not so much. It's funny about bikes. I can get into it. I do enjoy getting into it. And I watched a few of these other interviews you did with Steady Spin and Eric from No Front Brakes, and they were like, yeah, I'm more of a gearhead about cameras and stuff. And I can be a gearhead about cameras too. But it's funny. I kind of almost live my life on this weird, like, broad strokes. Like, I know a little bit about everything, but I'm not really good at going deep on any one topic.
So you're not a gear chaser at all. It's
Yeah, I mean, we all are, I think, because it's all like, ooh, the newest, nicest thing. Oh man, like I really want my next bike to have some Axis Eagle, and I think that would be awesome to see how the electronic shifting goes. And I get into it, but I realize that the second you get it, it doesn't make you happy. It's not like a solving thing.
Let me ask you this. All right, so you have your own mountain bike company. You're manufacturing mountain bikes. Let's say you are. First of all, what do you call that company?
Oh man, I've been really good with letting the audience come up with the name. The audience came up with the Nugatorium. Chris CXK came up with the Nugabago. He came up with BKXC Senior. So I'd have to do some
Okay.
crowdsourcing. Yeah, crowdsourcing, user generated content.
All right. I'm not letting you get away with that answer on the next one. What kind of mountain bike does your mountain bike company manufacture? What do you make?
Oh, full suspension enduro bikes.
Okay.
Simple, simple.
Good answer. Good answer. Let me ask you this. What needs to change in the mountain bike industry, if anything?
Oh man, I I can't even answer this question because I want them to keep being broken so I can come in and start my own company and kind of solve all those problems. I don't want to give away my secrets to the people watching right now. They'll
Fair
take it
enough.
to SRAM and they'll totally blow me away.
Yeah. Tens of
But
people are
yeah,
tens of people are
I was gonna
watching, Brian.
yeah, yeah, they're here. They're here.
What's your worst injury on a mountain bike?
You know, it's funny because I think it was before I started my channel. I kind of sprained my wrist a little bit, and I had to wear kind of a weird half-assed cast, and it wasn't a cast; it was kind of more of a wrap. But in 2017, when I was in Spain, I had a pretty decent crash, and I hurt my heel. So maybe not even
Yeah.
my heel, maybe like this on your foot. You know, since hands and feet are about the same, it was like here or here where I could ride, but if I went off a drop and like kind of, and I could feel it for a good 8 weeks, but like bones, when they break, they heal. So I never stopped riding or stopped anything. I just ignored it and it went away.
I kind of remember that one. It looked innocuous, but on the other hand, everyone's had that, and it's like, ah, better Brian than me, that's for sure. All right, let me get you in real trouble. Um, will you ever own an EMTB, a pedal assist?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
definitely, definitely. I would own one right now if Ibis made them. You know, because I'm an Ibis sponsored rider, and you know, I bet I could say like, is it okay if I get an e-bike kind of thing? But I love it. It's just the cost. It's really a tough thing to come up with 9 grand. Like, it's a tough thing for all of us to come up with 9 grand. For me to have a bike that I just sits at home for 90% of the time because I won't be able to really ride it in my videos, because most of the places I ride, you can't ride an e-bike. But for, practical trail building, for getting in tons of laps, I think it's a great machine.
Okay, yeah, the bike shop that I go to apparently has the first 6 Santa Cruz hecklers, and I
Mm-hmm.
helped them unwrap a whole bunch of them, and
Nice.
they are so expensive. I mean,
They'll sell out. They
they
could
will,
charge twice as much. They'll probably sell out.
they will. They'll have people switch XX into them, but oh man, they are crazy. All right, I'm going to get to my next section here, but in the meantime, don't forget to look at Brian's Patreon, IG, Facebook, and once again, I always say the same thing. Like, I will never ever tell you to go to someone's Instagram if they suck. And by suck, I mean posting 23 times a day. Brian's are different, they're not all the same thing. The Patreon really is the lifeblood of any, especially a full-time YouTuber. So it's worth it, $1 a month, $5 a month, $10 a month. Okay, here we go. What are you not very good at?
Being diplomatic. It's
Really?
funny because, yeah, like when it's really something that's like pissing me off or something, it's very hard to turn it off and not just be like, ah. It's funny because when I hang out with Seth, he is the ultimate, Seth's Bike Hacks. He is the ultimate diplomat. Like, he can talk around something so perfectly and just like never badmouths anything, and just, it's like magic to have that ability. I never learned that ability, but I think it's a good thing sometimes.
All right, let me also interrupt this show because it's mine. Let me tell you how solid Brian is. About 2 years ago, I had a mountain bike channel called Mountain Bike Advice, and I wrote him an email, and he was somewhere around 177,000 people, and he didn't know me. He didn't do it. I always tell people this. He did it for my class, and in the fall, I have about 3,000 students. And he insisted it would be private. And so, if you know what that means that he's not doing it for subscribers either. He's just doing it as a pure solid, and I really appreciate that. I do also remember about 3,800 people showed up to that live chat, and it was a shit show. It was just like, Brian, are you single? Brian, will you marry me? Brian was like, and he hung out for about 45 minutes and then hung out for 15 more minutes. So I'm always indebted to Brian for that. Tell me something that you think is true that almost nobody else agrees with you on.
This
Like,
is like the ultimate question. I love this question. I've heard this question before, and I didn't think I had an answer to the question until I started thinking about it, because I saw your previous interviews with Kevin from Steady Spin and Eric from No Front Brakes, and they kind of didn't have anything. But I'm like, oh, so I've got a couple of these, but I think these are the questions like that define us. So I'm super excited. Sorry, that's why. But so in 30 years from now, pro sports will not exist, basically, as we know it. Pro sports will not exist as we know it. It will just be completely poof, because virtual reality is going to be our main form of entertainment, if
really?
not our main form of life. So why would you, and at that point, virtual reality or even our own bodies will be so superhuman that what is the point of watching someone participate in activity? What's the point of watching someone have sex when you have sex right at your fingertips?
Wow. You've been thinking while you're driving, haven't you?
Yeah, definitely, man. Like, if I had Mark Cuban in a room right now, I would tell Mark Cuban, sell the Mavericks right now, man, because all this stuff, the way our entire world is going to change. If you think about 30 years ago, when I was 7 years old, playing Super Mario Brothers on my Nintendo, up to my CRT television, didn't have the internet, had to look in a dictionary if you want to look up a word, and you had to look in an encyclopedia if you want to learn something. 30 years from now, when I'm 68 years old, it's going to be so much more different, so much crazy. So yeah,
Wow.
that's my thing. Pro sports is just one sliver of everything that'll change. The whole entertainment landscape will definitely be obliterated as we know it.
That's a great answer. That is a really great answer. Thank you. What is your superhero name if you were a superhero?
Ooh, super. Oh man, these name things. I think I forgot to think about this one.
Maybe you get
Extra medium,
Chris.
extra. Yeah, Chris CXK is in the chat.
Yeah,
Extra
he'll
medium, man.
figure it out for you.
I like
What's your
extra medium. I've heard
What's your superpower?
stopping time. There's nothing more powerful. Like there was that TV show back in the day, Another World, or like there was a girl, she was a teenager and she go boom and stop time, and she did it to like save stupid stuff. It's like you could change the entire world if you could just stop time. You could go assassinate Kim Jong-un. You could, turn the communist China into democratic China, like in the flip of a switch, just because you have the power to stop time.
Oh. Another thing I forgot. The sound on this is shitty. However, however, my friend Joseph of Trail Features, if you would do me a solid, he's fixing this for me. I'm getting some stuff today or tomorrow. However, he is within an RCH of hitting 20,000 subscribers. And if you haven't heard of him, he has one of the most thoughtful channels. He is a privateer. Really, really interesting stuff, not just mountain biking. You'll learn a lot of stuff. So when all this is done, go to Joseph's channel, Trail Features, and have a look at that. He is truly a very generous person, like Brian, who has always been very, very helpful with the stuff. What are you curious about right now?
I'm very curious about what the R in RCH means. I know what CH is, but I don't know what the
Red.
R is.
Red.
Red. Okay.
Everyone knows that.
That was a perfect. No, I've never heard that. Like we've used other forms, but I've never heard red. Dun dun.
Yeah, usually this doesn't get demonetized until the end. What are you curious about right now besides that?
Yeah, the AI thing, artificial intelligence, this virtual reality thing I started thinking about, but also learning about history. So as I traversed the United States this year, I was in Utah a few days ago, and I went on the Wikipedia page about the Mormons and learning about their history. I've had a bunch of Mormon friends throughout my life, and I have a total positive interaction and positive, view on Mormon people, and I hate that they're the butt of every joke. And so I had not read all this cool history about, oh my God, they basically got kicked out of Missouri, kicked out of Illinois. Like my buddy I was riding with said that it was legal to kill a Mormon until 1960 because they forgot to take the law out of off the books or whatever.
Lord.
So just learning about the United States and just seeing all these different people, meeting all these different people, especially as it's an election year, and like what makes up our country and the history is so fascinating to me.
Yeah, I was watching your video and you were showing a place called the Gauntlet from the Civil War, and I was just like,
yeah, Vicksburg. Yeah.
Holy shit. Young boys, 15, 16, 17 years old, like in that field of fire, you're like, come on. And I was like,
run the gauntlet.
That's scary. What have you failed at?
What have I failed at? Oh, every relationship I've ever had, every romantic relationship. So it's definitely 0 for 5, 0 for 4, something. Just keep swinging.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever gotten?
Oh, I had one. Oh yeah, okay. My Uncle Dennis, like when I was like 18 or something, I got a pretty nice Camaro, and he wasn't ragging on me, but he was like, a car is just a thing to get you from point A to point B. And I think it's very easy to like get caught up with money and having something nice. And I think he was right, but I never followed that advice. I think it's the best advice for anyone that your car should not be like a huge part of your income. Buy used, like make it work for you. But it was great advice that I didn't really listen to.
Let me interrupt you.
Yeah.
Can you apply that same piece of advice to a mountain bike?
Oh, no, yes and no, because you can always dial it down. You could always go for the Ritmo AF, which is $3,000 instead of the Ritmo XO1, which is $9,000. So there's always a thing, but you can apply it to mountain bikes because really the goal is to have fun. But if your bike kind of holds you back from having fun and you're like, oh, if I only had this, then I could get over this, which might be true or not, but we kind of tell ourselves it's true.
That is an exceptional bike, though. I mean, it is. What's the worst piece of advice you've ever gotten?
Man, I thought about this and I cannot think
Must
of a
be
bad piece of
relationship advice.
advice. Yeah, yeah, there you go. It must be. It must be.
What personal trait has gotten you into the most trouble?
I think it's being willing to stand up for what's right and being willing to say what is on my mind. When I worked at a normal job, that is something, and in class, in college and stuff, I would always raise my hand, or not even raise my hand. I would always blurt out and talk in meetings at work at potsandpans.com. I'd, blurt out and talk and say what I think and what's right and what's wrong and why we should be doing something, which is, I think it's very rare. Like I would just feel like, man, is no one else sees this or no one else talking? And then after class or after work, somebody say, oh wow, yeah, oh you're totally right about that. And it's like, what? Where are you guys? And it's a thing in my family, which is like one of the coolest things, that it's one of our traits that we just can't stand it. Like we cannot stand like the right and wrong, the morality thing. Like we can't contain ourselves and without like bursting out. And which is funny because in the news today, it's the Astros cheating, the whole baseball cheating scandal, and 70 people had to be in on that. 70 at least had to know what was going on, and only one guy years later, Mike Fiers, I think, spoke up and said, hey, this was going on. So the history of the world is all the bad stuff was people that went along with it, and then all the good stuff is people that said, fuck that, no, this is wrong, we're standing up for it. So that's the American ideal, I hope, is us standing up and saying, no, this is wrong, we got to do what's right.
God, you could tell you're Irish. It's so easy. So easy. All right, cake or pie?
I'm gonna say, my mom actually baked a pretty good cake recently. I think they have a convection oven or something, but pie, Nation's Pie. It's a chain in Northern California. They have chocolate cream pie that is excellent.
Pie is 4 for 4. That's amazing. All right, let's get to the viewer questions. But before we do, don't forget about Brian's Patreon, Instagram, and Facebook. That Patreon is the lifeblood, and I'm not making that shit up. I'm not, promise. It's and I've spent a lot of time doing it. Here's your questions here. I'm going to go through them and have Brian answer a couple of these. Frank, does Brian have any tentative month for Illinois?
I don't have a tentative date for anything. I don't have months. I don't have dates. If you emailed me and you wanted to ride with me and you sent an invite and a plan, then we will be riding together. But if you're just wondering when I'm going to go through, it's not going to happen unless I do a Patreon ride. And there's going to be very few Patreon rides along the way. There's Brown County, Indiana. There's a few places off the top of my head where there's like 1 million patrons and 1 million people have said, man, you got to come there. So unless you emailed me at this point months ago, because I've got probably 1,000 emails from people and I've saved them and I plotted out locations. So I'm keeping it loose, and the people that have emailed me, it's going to be like super last minute, and that's why I've got like 4 people in every riding destination in the United States that have reached out to me. It's awesome.
Stacy's MTB Life. What advice would you give a new YouTuber?
That is that's something I could probably talk about for 1,000 days. But really, you have to keep making videos, and you have to be very what is it, observational. Like you have to have self-awareness that this is a TV show. You are making a TV show on the internet. You're not just recording your rides and hoping people like it. You're making a TV show that you hope people are going to like and interact with and get a lot out of it. You have to entertain, you have to inform, you have to inspire. You also have to kind of make great thumbnails and great titles that suck people in, that for people are searching for how to wash your bike. You can always start with kind of basic things like, my bike isn't shifting right. Here's why. You can start with basic keyword searchable things to get your channel off the ground, and then they have to like you, and they have to like your talk and your cadence and all that stuff. It's very much a personality based thing. It's a TV show, and if you're not cut out to be on a TV show, it's going to be tough.
Chase wants to know, how often do you ride?
That is a great question, because it's not as much as you think. Pretty much all my rides are on my Strava, and it might be 2 rides a week, maybe 3 rides a week. It's just enough to get the videos out. I'm not riding, back when I had a real job, I rode way more. So it's actually kind of funny how the riding is, it's a part of it, but it's not the major driver all day, every day.
Yeah, I asked my wife, I'm like, you want to go for a ride? And she's like, are you filming? Maybe. Like, I don't want to go then because it's not a ride. All right, Scott Smith, MTB. Great meeting you the other day, man. Hope you enjoyed your time in Texas. Curious what you prefer, carbon or aluminum bars?
Yeah, that comes up. What's up, Scott? Scott is Seth's buddy from that never rode a mountain bike until he met Seth. Am I blinking out? I think
No, you're good.
No, okay.
You're good.
But okay. So yeah, I just like carbon because it's the thing, it's the cool thing, but I know people really have a hesitation with the carbon because if it snaps, it becomes a blunt object or a sharp object to kind of
It'll tear
kill
you
you.
up.
But I've never seen anyone crack a bar. I've seen that classic ride, that hip jump is sketchy from Redemption 17, which has like 3 million views or whatever. That was the end of the bar. That was like a bar with a bar plug in it that went into his thigh. It wasn't a jagged edge that went into that guy's thigh. So I've never seen like because yeah, that handlebar did break, but yeah, I haven't seen any crazy thing. That was about the craziest thing I've seen.
I think Chris asked this, and before we came on, Chris wanted to know, what's the biggest drop you've ever done?
Oh, it's always hard to tell because if you look back after you do it, you're like, that was a 70-foot drop. Oh my God. But like for the feeling of how I was in the air, I can't even judge, because I bet if you think about dropping 6 feet in the air, if you're standing up straight and you dropped all that, 6 feet is huge. And so I'm going to say 6 feet, but I'm sure it's a little bit bigger with the transition and the lip and all that stuff.
Do you ever get pissed off when you do a video of something like that? Like, I think everyone knows that a GoPro, Hero 7 makes you look like you're going way faster than you are. However, the payback is the steepness doesn't show as much, and the drop is just like, oh, you're a big pussy. What are you talking about? And you're like, no, you had to be there. Does that ever?
Definitely. Oh, it never ends. It never ends. And it's funny too, because it's certain people like have good intentions and they're like, hey, why wouldn't you hit that feature right there? And it's like, it's utterly ridiculous. You have no idea what you're talking about. So until you bring someone along for the ride, they just don't know. You'll never know. And hopefully the little virtual reality recording will eventually bring you into the reality.
Mountain Bike Guide Coeur d'Alene. That has places in my heart. Why did you start eating gluten again?
So the whole reason I stopped eating gluten in the first place was to see if it would stop any crazy urgent bathroom visits that have plagued me basically since puberty. But I don't think it made a difference. And I was going to China, and there's not much option with the old gluten-free when you go to a crazy country where you don't even know what you're eating. So you just dive in and you go for it. And gluten has never actually probably been an issue. It's something else, which I've still never figured out.
All right, this is weird right here. This person's Sprocket Girl is ignoring my emails because I wanted to come on my. It's a very new channel, and I was just like, I sent her an email, really, really nice, and I know I give that creepy old man vibe, like, would you come on this deal and do it? But anyway, just so she knows. Hi, Brian. How do you encourage more women to get into mountain biking?
I think there is some awesome women's groups that have started. I've seen a lot of like women specific skills groups and getaway camps and that kind of stuff that seem to be doing an awesome job. And it's an exposure thing, right? It's like I've never, the only way I've been exposed to kite surfing is because I've heard you mention kite surfing a couple times.
And
so it's like
you will. I am going to tie your ass to a kite this summer when you come up there, and it might be the end of your channel, but we're going to do that.
But so it's a funny thing because we live in our little worlds. It's like, how are you going to expose more people to wingsuit, base jumping? It's such a niche. It's such a tiny, weird little thing that just starts with white guys, as everything does, and then it kind of randomly starts to, branch out, and people see it and like, oh, wow. And so exposure therapy is the only way. It's if there was a mainstream YouTuber or show on NBC that showed mountain biking that wasn't Red Bull Rampage, because the total thought of anyone off the street is that mountain biking is Red Bull Rampage, and it's just not. It's a very amazing sport that is actually decent for beginners, except for it's really tough on the lungs.
Yeah, I agree. All right, I have my conclusion questions for you, but I hate to kick a dead horse, but don't forget about Brian's Patreon, Instagram, and Facebook. And the Facebook is actually very worth it too. Once again, you do that very, very right and maybe because I've seen it done so wrong so often.
It's hard. All the different platforms are tough to kind of figure out what to post and stuff. And yeah, it's funny with the Patreon because you could hop in and do $3 and kind of see what it is and then just cancel. It's perfectly fine. You pay that $3 when you first get in, and then you're like, whoa, okay, there's all this stuff that maybe you didn't know was there. It's worth. You're not going to hurt my feelings if you cancel after a day.
It'd be pretty surprising when someone saw what it offered.
Definitely.
Would you just last question, kind of on Patreon? Do you have more content? Let's say in the last year, is there more Patreon content or more YouTube content?
There's a couple so I rarely do extra Patreon videos. I just did one on Thursday though, because this week on YouTube there's not going to be any videos. Monday and Wednesday it'll be like the first time I've ever missed a week in 4 years, but but I have to due to all the van stuff and the rearranging of stuff, I just have to be like, oh, there's nothing coming. But I did a podcast on Tuesday, a video podcast interview with Aaron from P&W Components, and then Thursday I did kind of a little vlog just to tell everybody where I'm at, what's going on. Yeah, it was really cool. He's such very a nice cool guy. To meet. Kindred spirit too, because there's a lot of things there that I totally identify with myself, and it's pretty neat. So yeah, man. There's a lot of stuff there. Every month I do an AMA podcast interview kind of, or question thing. Nice.
All right, here we go. You ready? What's your favorite word?
Frankensteiner. It's a wrestling move, and they never use this word anymore, but there was a guy named Scott Steiner back in the day. He's still around, but it's kind of a move where one wrestler is kind of running and the other wrestler goes over the top and throws him over. But they have a different name for it now called Hurricane Rana. But I saw Frankensteiner.
I saw you in Houston. How did you get so close?
I spent money on some expensive tickets, but it was worth it.
I guess you did. What's your favorite curse word?
right now, my favorite curse phrase is "kiss my ass." Because my
Nice.
neighbor across the street, Jack, I had him over to I showed him my van, and I was talking about the solar on the van. He was like, "Oh, kiss my ass!" And I got a fridge over here. "Oh, kiss my ass!" And it was really cool because he's like an old tow truck driver and super mechanically inclined. Because I think he used to take his kids to like BMX when they were little, but he's looking at my bike and he's like, "Wait, this has got like a full suspension." He's like picking it apart, all the gears and all. He's just looking at it. He hasn't been exposed to a modern full suspension mountain bike. Like probably the last bike he'd seen was a BMX bike 30 years ago. And he's like going over the whole thing. And I was like, whoa, this dude's like an engineer or something. He's guessing like, oh, and then this and the hydraulic disc brakes. And oh, you got this. And I was like super blown away by his ability to just pick everything apart. But after he saw everything, he's like, "Oh, kiss my ass."
I like that. It's got a double entendre going on there. I remember asking you this a couple of years ago. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Oh man, this is endless. This endless. But as a kid, I think I always wanted to write for like Saturday Night Live or In Living Color, and writing for a sketch show or performing on a sketch show, comedy stuff would be that would be the dream for sure. I regret never being obsessed about it enough to ever write a joke. Like I have never I've written like one joke maybe, but for as obsessed about comedy as I was, from 8 years old or whatever, if I would have actually worked on it, I probably could have turned that into a real thing.
Nice. Well, Brian, I really appreciate it. Don't forget Brian's Instagram and Patreon. And I guess the best way to end this show is like, Brian, kiss my ass.
Kiss my ass.
Thanks very much.